and thanks to all that are watching. Now let's start with the next session. Today, the talk will be on democracy and how to engage also the people in decision making, and also with Pierre, we properly fostering this element. So Pierre, welcome. Thank you very much for being here, and sorry for let you wait. Thank you very much for being patient.
No problem, no problem. I can understand there's some technical problem or schedule the time that is not going as expected. I worked many years in theater and sometimes it happens.
Thank you, thank you. So Pierre will
So,
talk to, go ahead. We'll talk about sociocracy, and I will let the floor to you.
okay, thank you very much. So, um, just a little bit about myself. I live in Italy, but I'm not Italian, as you can see from my name, family name. I'm Belgian, and I'm born close to where sociocracy is born. That is Holland. And I've been for many years I work in theater from when I was 20 to 48, and that's where in the technical area. So that's where I developed some questions mainly and skills in governance and decision making, because at a certain point I started to ask it why we are not working so well, what is happening, why we are disengaging, why there is no, and we spend so many time at work, and I would like it to be a transformative experience, a growing experience for everybody. Then I met Transition Town movement in 2009 when it just checked in Italy, and I've been very engaged with it, long time. And there I discovered facilitation, co-creation about different facilitation methods. And I was very active. I've been also president of Transition Italia for some years. But then there was a question that arose that was very important for me. And it has to do with, I think, it's an underlying very important theme in what sociocracy and what we are talking here about. And it was, why are we using co-creating methods like dragon dreaming, open space, work cafe, any kind of things? And then when we have to decide, we use a strange rule that is the majority and minority rules, because we are used to it. I mean, that is the simple answer, is that we are used to it. We don't know, we don't think, and we don't know that there are other methods. But was very, for me, was very big tension at a certain point, because when you co-create something, it's like between theater, no? In opera, you have the chorus, that is, you have 4 kind of voices. So the bass, tenor, sopranos, and so on. And when you go to decide with the majority minority rules, if it goes very bad, like Brexit, you have 51% of the people on one side and 49% on the other side. So you lose, if it was still a chorus, you will lose a lot of voices, a lot of possibility, a lot of energy, a lot of yes, possibility to do something great. And you lose the support of the people. I mean, the minority this time is not so happy to be a minority and not being heard. So asking these things, sociocracy came to me, and then I fell in love very quickly. Had some problem in training, because there was nothing in Italy at the moment, but internet helped me a lot. So now I'm very active in Sociocracy for All. You can find it online on sociocracyforall.org, and I will talk to you about a bit. I think that today what was intriguing after reading a bit about the Climate Change Forum was to talking about the principles that are behind sociocracy. So we'll talk about the fact that sociocracy helps a change in mindset, and I think this can help a lot. If working on this kind of theme, climate change, for example, to change its mindset and to change the approach, because what we are living now, for myself, is really a representation of what we have done in the past year. So we have acted with certain principle, and this is the feedback we are having from the nature, from the earth, from the climate, and we know what is there. We live in it, and we have all these problems. So we need to change the output of what we're doing. But I don't think we can. I don't think, not only me, we can change it if we don't change the mindset. And if we change it, because when we change the mindset, we can change also how we act, and we can have different results. So I will talk about three principles, mainly: transparency, efficiency, and equivalence, that are the three main principles in sociocracy. But there is also a theme I want to speak very little at the beginning. It is about power. And power is a very nasty word. I mean, people really don't like it, but I don't think it's the problem of power itself. It's how it has been used. Because power, if you want a definition, is the capacity to influence. And it's neutral. I mean, let's take some natural example that I will use all along. Sun has the power to heat. Water has the power to hydrate. Earth has the power to tend the growing of plants, to protect the seed in the seasons, so that they will grow when when we go out of winter. And wind has the power to make seeds and pollen travel, and so plants can grow, can reproduce. These are power. So what do we do with this kind of power? Too much or too little power can be harmful. So better manage it in some way. Too much sun can be very dangerous. Too much water. We have a lot of examples in the last months in Italy, what water have done. Also wind. Okay? Or too little. It's very dry. It's incredibly dry in some moments of the year. And this is not very good for the plants, the soil. So let's move on. Transparency. That's one of the first principles. I like to start with this say: if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. What it has to do with transparency? I think that if you want to make good decision, you need informations. And in this moment, but anytime, I think if you want to take time to take, you need to take time to take good decision, because you will need a lot of information to process, and you are not able alone to do that, because you need a lot of point of view. In our society, I think the point of view that is winning or has more the capacity to influence is economic. And again, like for power, economic is not the problem, it's how we use it, how we use the power of economics that makes the difference. So if it is the main voice that wins, all the other voices will now have no space, and will have too little power, and we will have problems, and we are having problems because of this. So to make decisions, you need good information, you need the way to process them. The transparency of decision and data, with this we can learn faster. So in some way we can go faster together. And I think that in this way, perhaps Creative Commons, open source can help. I mean, if we have methodologies, if you have data, more information that we can share, if the economics is not based on the power of the information I have. So if I have some information and I don't share them, I can take better decision. But I think in this time we need that this information must be shared, because we need to find new solutions, and the time are a bit complex, and we need different point of view. So this is one way. And also there is the fact that transparency is say what you need to say what needs to be said. That is very important. Not hide. And transparency also on intent. I walk the talk. I take a decision, and it's transparent why I'm doing it, what I'm doing, how I'm doing it. So there is no second intent that I'm masking. Okay. Let's go to the next one, efficiency. In sociocracy, we go for good enough for now and safe enough to try decisions. Because it's a learning process. Because if you want, you can take years, invest years in taking very good decision, perfect decision. But the situation outside has changed. So perhaps the decision you have taken at this moment, you have reached at that point, is not valid anymore. So we prefer to take small decisions that help us to make some step forward and to have an answer from the reality. I will use another image, like the sailing trip. Now, when you go on sailing, and you can decide a certain amount of things, but other things, you will have surprise. I mean, you can know how much people will be on the boat, so you can know how much food, how much water, who will do what. Okay, but then when you go and you leave the port, then you have the sea, then you have the weather, then you have the wind. You have a lot of things that are unknown to you. And you have to deal them on the moment. That's what I call the reality. I mean, I can take a decision today. I want to go to run, and I will do it in the afternoon. But perhaps the weather change, so I will have to take another decision. So that is another aspect. We take small decisions. We set a name. So when we go sailing, we want to know the port. Perhaps we're going to just go a round trip, so come back, or perhaps we want to go to some port. So we will say, okay, this is our direction. In sociocracy, it's a name, an objective. And we set a strategy. So how much food, how much water, who does what, and so on. And this is through decisions we take together. So this will be our guideline, our policy. And then we set also regular ship points. What's this? It is that while we are traveling, we ask ourselves how it is going, what's going well, what could be done better. And sometimes we also have to ask ourselves, is the final destination, the aim, the objective we have set still good? This doesn't happen many times, but you have also to ask this, and you adapt, because the wind, I mean, it's not like being on a road that you have a motor that push yourself. The wind will push you in a strange way. So you, with your ship, you have to say like this, like in angles. You cannot go straight. I mean, you will be very lucky if you can do it, but it doesn't happen very often. So these ship points are the moment where you learn. And you learn a lot of things. You learn a lot of things about yourself, the team, your knowledge. You can, yes, you learn something new. You learn that you have to learn something new. So this is a trip. This is a continuous learning and improvement in what you are doing. And it is incredibly beautiful. It's one of the aspects I really love in sociocracy, that it promotes, that is this continuous learning. And another example I would like to bring you to go back to the nature. Have you never seen, I mean, if you see a tree that is alone, you have all the space to grow. So he is doing also is doing like an efficiency trip. Because what he's doing, right, when he was a seed, he just put down some root, a branch, perhaps 2, 3, 4 leaf, and say, okay, how is going here? Do I find water? Do I find minerals? How is the wind? How is the sun? How can I adapt my structure, okay, like a tree in this environment? And it does this all life. I mean, there are very old trees. You can see the magnificence they have. If you observe them, you can really see their life, the decision they have made through their life. And funny fact that you can find, I was living in Ferrara for some time, and there is a place on the walls, on the ancient walls of Ferrara, where there are 5 trees. They're planted, like 1 in the center and the 4 on the side, exactly on the north-south, on the cardinal points. It's a very funny. And if you look from far, they're the same kind of tree. If you look from far, you don't expect that they are 5 trees, because the shape they have is exactly the one of 1 tree. But when you get closer, you discover that the one on the side have developed only the part where they can reach the sun on each side, and the center one is very tall, and you go up because there I found the sun. So that is the way to adapt efficiently to work to your environment. And there is a form of equivalence as the next principle. I mean, you cannot do this if you don't, in some way, balance with what you find: the wind, the sun, the water, the elements in the terrain, the earth. And equivalence is and you cannot force, or you will not thrive. And then equivalence is the third principle, and we are used to different decision-making principles. I mean, let's say autocracy is very simple and very for lazy people. Somebody take a decision. It can be 1 person or a small group, and it's fantastic. They take the decision. I don't have responsibility, but I cannot influence. It's their job. Very, very few voices will hurt. If we are lucky, they are enlightened, let's say, or they have they take good decisions, and we all thrive. But if they are not enlightened, they're not wise, it can be a big problem. And okay, I'm joking, but we know also that autocracy can have very, very bad, can turn very, very bad. I mean, we have in our last century a couple of examples, but not only. I would just think about Italy and Germany, but also there is Spain and so on, and South America and so on. So a small group or 1 person that take a decision. No, very few voices will be heard. Very little capacity to influence decision. So no power. But power are in these people. Then there is a majority and minority rules that said that the decision is made when 50% plus 1 person have decided for A or B, yes or no, black or white. That's what happened with Brexit. I mean, and was very funny for me to say, okay, such a big decision, you have a 51-49. You don't take the time to ask yourself if it's okay. No. Democracy, I've decided to use the majority minority rules. You can also decide to use other rules if he wants. They're not linked. That's a very interesting thing. But no, they just go straight on. And we see now after so many times what has happened, what they are doing. And so which voices are heard? The 50% plus 1. The 49% are heard? No capacity to influence. But minority, if you stay in the minority for a long time, it's not so a good place to stay, not heard. And this is a very delicate also conversation to have on this, because there are things that okay, I don't want to discuss because I can go I can open too many parentheses. So, but it's a very handy process to hear a lot of people, but not all voices will be heard. That's the functional and dysfunctional part. And then we have the consent principle that is the one used in sociocracy. And the consent principle says that a decision is made when there are no objections. So it's like we are asking, do you see an important reason for not doing like this? We are not asking a yes or a no, even if at the end, it can look like from outside, but it's very different. We are asking, do you see a reason for not doing like this? And what is the reason? Because if you have a reason for not doing like this, you have an objection. So what is your objections? How can we transform the proposal into a decision? Hearing your voice. We just come from democracy, using the consent principle in democracy. It can be done, but it must be planned. It must be, we have to design this. I mean, it's huge. Perhaps there are other methodology that can work best. And but it's interesting to use this consent principle. Like I said at the beginning, the mindset for me is very important, to approach the work together with another mindset. So this is very good. And in organizations, think a big organization, the start to apply the consent principle and the transparency and the efficiency approach in their job, in their business, but not only. Association, little organization, intentional community that start to hear all the voices and give the possibility to all the voices to influence the decision. Okay, to have power, we can hear so many points of view. I mean, it was like the example of the chorus. We were losing, like in the example, 49% of the people we are losing. We are losing the point of view of this person, the support of this person. Okay. How do we act this principle? One basic is 3 rounds. It's very simple, but it's very effective. I don't know if you have ever participated. Yes, I think. Oh, we all have this this experience. Like in conversations, we debate. It really is like debate, a fight. No, we go over each other. I wait for him or her to have a slight pause, and I intervene. So we are not hearing each other. We are fighting each other and keeping our position. And more the fight raise, more I keep my position. In rounds, we speak one after the other. So we know we will have our time to say what we are doing, what we think, and we also can hear the other. We can relax and hear the other. So we take perhaps a bit more time to take decisions, but then the decision is much better quality and have the support of everybody. So we have to close with a little video of 4 minutes, just to give you a sense of what is sociocracy. But before, there was this Talanoa dialogue I was looking, and I was intrigued by the question. So and I said, okay, where this principle fit in this? So where are we in the terms of climate action? Okay, this is the first question. Transparency is key here. The sharing of information. Transparency. Where do we want to go? Transparency. So speak what you will do, and equivalence, because we have to decide where we want to go. I want to hear all the voices and hear how much is important for one side to go to have this in the final decision, and for the other side, all sides, I say, all sides. I will not take out nobody, all sides. And how do we get there? This is the strategy. So transparency, again, being very clear, transparent, what you will do. Equivalence, because we have to decide it together, and we have to be able to support it. And I will put here also efficiency and feedback to be able to measure the progress. So we decide also together where and how to measure it. Okay. So I will close this and would like to ask if there's a possibility to show a short video about sociocracy, but I see my time perhaps is finished. I'll put the link in the chat, because I've seen before that Elsa was not sharing his screen, but if Domenico can do it.
Okay, just a few questions. You can show a little bit and maybe not. Let me know if there is a possibility to take 1 minute or two, and then maybe we can share. But go ahead.
I mean, I share it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead. We will take the time for after, so we can gain the time after.
Yeah.
Just stay. Yeah. But I also ask you if you can give me the map of the Talanoa dialogue with the Sociocracy principle, because it's a great surprise. Yeah, maybe to share the sound.
You cannot hear the sound?
No.
Can you share it through the link I put in the chat?
Yes. Just quickly. Okay.
Then you decide when to cut it. But if you can share
Okay.
the link, people
Okay.
can
Okay.
see it
Okay.
in another moment. It's okay.
Okay. Okay.
You have the power.
Okay. Thank you. And in the meanwhile, I'll greet Francesco Postiglione that it's here. And sorry also to Francesco for being late. We ran out a little bit of time today. There were so many things, and
You want to make a difference, and you want to make a difference together. Working together, getting things done, can be fun. We long for that experience. You can be effective and open in a way that respects everyone in your group. You want your group to make decisions fast, to hear everyone's voice, and to enjoy success. Sociocracy came from the Netherlands and has spread all over Europe, the US, and the world. It is an established, tried and tested governance system, ready for you to use. Some people prefer to call it dynamic governance. Let's look at how decisions are made in sociocracy. An issue will come to a working group.
So I was contacted because there was an issue with...
The group will create a full picture of what is going on. They will follow a process to come to a proposal that takes everybody into account. In sociocracy, we want all voices to be heard. One tool to do that is to talk in rounds. Rounds make it easy for people to speak, and since you know you will be heard, rounds also make it easier to listen. We want to make good decisions and have all voices and concerns get equal consideration.
Okay, I think we covered everything.
Yeah, and I think this should work for everyone too.
Decisions are made by consent. We ask, is this proposal good enough to try out? Does anyone object to the proposal? Not everyone gets their personal preference. We figure out a way to improve our proposal until it is good enough and everyone can consent to it. The whole group takes responsibility for the objections and seeks to address the underlying concerns.
So let's see if we've dealt with all objection and do a consent round.
I consent.
No objection.
No objection.
I consent.
Consent.
No more objections.
I don't have any objections, so it looks like we have consent.
In sociocracy, we call the working groups circles. Each circle has an aim, a shared purpose. Circles make decisions about responsibilities that are in their domain. The people who actually do the work together decide together. They know best what needs to happen. They do the work. They see what works and what doesn't. Let them make the decisions. How do we make a whole from the parts? In sociocracy, we do this through linking. Every circle has a leader and a delegate. The leaders and delegates of the department-level circles together form the general circle. Information can now flow back and forth through the entire organization. The leader typically lets the circle know the overall operational plan and what needs to be done.
Okay, I'll stop here, but was extremely interesting to me also, and so I will give the full view of that. Thank you very much to Pierre Houben for accepting to join the Climate Social Forum and to give these very brightful insights about sociocracy and Ciao, buongiorno, Maria Grazia.
Buongiorno.
Ciao Giancarlo. Aspettiamo l'ospite di adesso. Adesso, Maria Grazia, in realtà ti chiederei dopo di ingaggiare se vuoi il dibattito, nel senso adesso c'è una speech di un ragazzo che si occupa di Just Transition e ti avevo invitato appunto come osservatore, poi dopo ci sarà la talk con Greenpeace.
Ok.
Ah, ok.
Vediamo. Nel frattempo, allora, perché forse sta scrivendo.
Eccoci,
Ciao Stefania,
ci
benvenuta.
risiamo.
Eccoci, stiamo aspettando adesso lo speaker, il ragazzo che deve parlare all'inizio.
Ok.
Vediamo. Nel frattempo, beh, non so se sì, vi siete già conosciuti in realtà a Roma.
Sì.
Con noi c'è Maria
Sì.
Grazia Midulla. Grazie. Allora, vediamo. Sì, aspettiamo. Nel frattempo qualche ragguaglio per la sessione dopo, che sarà con Greenpeace per Maria Grazia. Sarete tu e Luca Iacoboni perché avevo invitato anche Katiuscia Eroe, ma non può venire, quindi il tema sarà appunto i sussidi ambientalmente dannosi. Faremo la talk in English, vi farò 3 domande giusto per ingaggiare la discussione, lasciandovi uno spazio all'inizio per un intervento di un po' più lungo, possiamo fare anche 7 minuti per ciascuno. Dopodiché, dopo i 7 minuti e le 2 domande che vi faccio, lasciamo il dibattito.
Ok.
Adesso aspettiamo, appunto, questo slot ci doveva essere un ragazzo di Young in realtà che aveva chiesto di parlare, però vediamo un attimo se... Ok, sta arrivando. Ok. È arrivato. Hello? Hi, Samuel. Can you hear us? Hi, Samuel.
It's good to be here, please.
Yes. Okay, we are gonna start because we are a little bit late. I will introduce the other speakers. There is with us Stefania Romano that will be also helping in moderating then the discussion, and Maria Grazia Midulla from WWF Italy. So if you want to proceed with your speak about just transition, so you can go ahead. Okay.
All right. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak here. I want to take this time out to appreciate the panelists, Domenico, and the rest of the team, Giancarlo Zelloni, Maria Grazia, and Stefano. It's wonderful meeting you all. My name is Samuel Adurki. I'm from Nigeria. I'm a climate change and energy advocate, and I advocate for just transitions and youth development and involvement in climate change and policy decision making. And I've been privileged to be part of this year's Paris Peace events, which held earlier this month, as a delegate. So speaking on energy mainstreaming and then ending speculative finance of of climate and green innovations, and also working on how to strategically implement the Paris agreements and then the Green Deals. We understand that there are different focal points and there are different objects of the Paris agreements, and the items that are focusing on the finance, on the adaptation and the mitigation approach of climate change requires that most people, most governments be up and doing and should take responsibility in financing more sustainable and just transitions from fossil fuels. And in this way, the importance of youth engagement and collaborative work in developing these action plans, either for government or for multinationals that are in the finance, in the sectors like oil, for instance, oil and gas, needs a lot of coordination and a lot of partnerships that should actually monitor and observe how true they are to the transition agreements. For instance, even more money actually, or more finances that are focused on financing fossil fuels can be diverted into clean energy, as we are seeing in some other organizations in some other countries, mostly developed countries across the globe. If such can be replicated in all underdeveloping or developing nations, I think the transition will be faster and more transparent. So it is imperative then that we all come together and place an action like we did at the Financing Commons Summit in the build-up to the COP16, such as these events we are having now. We can always gather policymakers, decision makers, influencers of decisions and policy on the table to discuss the best way and the strategic ways to push this forward. And this also allows for non-governmental organizations, civil society organization engagement, and youth participation in pushing forward the petitions to the COP presidency and to presidents and leaders of nations, ministries, and agencies that are saddled with the responsibility of energy transition. For instance, in Nigeria, we still have a little more to achieve in the energy transition. And when we're talking about energy transition, it's not financing projects that are just particular to using solar to light up lanterns and all that. We should talk about areas like clean cooking industry. We should talk into areas like transportation, which actually we see as the major sectors or major industries that contribute to the global warming and carbon combustions. So there should be also ways of investing and divesting into sectors like agriculture for climate change mitigation or adaptation in whatever way, using energy to power sustainable development in a more feasible and sustainable way. So I think at this stage, we just need to go beyond calling on beyond chasing shadows and into making strong decisions at this point. And towards the COP26, which is scheduled for next year, 2021, I think we have a long way to go in coming together, because 2021 is just by the way, and we need to come together and put forward some initiatives and make some really loud noise out there to organizations, to governments, in our local societies, gather together civil society organizations that are partaking and that are true to and are committed to the transition state of energy globally. So at this point too, I want to advise that if we can, on our own way, help to take initiatives such as education and awareness, primarily to young people, to them seeing that the future that is being affected is due to climate change, and that young people constitutes a large number of every economy and the population. So to say, like 60% of the generation can still be considered as young, ranging between, according to the African Youth Charter, they range between 15 and 35 years, while according to the Global Charter, they range between 15 and 30, or 18 and 30. So youth should actually, we should actually help to develop the capacities of youth in learning about alternatives to fossil. And then they should also start taking initiatives that can actually help them to scale solutions like innovations and their ideas and make it work, and also financing those initiatives. And in those little micro scales, those initiatives that are being financed can actually find expressions into the carbon footprints that are being set by countries and nationals. So on this table, there would be decision makers like ministers, as we all have. We can have organizations like National Renewable Energy Labs. We can have IRENA and international energy agencies and major organizations globally that are championing the cause of energy transition. We can have them to come speak. We can have top policy makers to come sit together and make decisions for the young people. And while making decisions for the young people, we cannot leave the young people out of the decision-making process. Rather, we should bring them to the table and make them more inclusive and participatory in taking actions and decisions. And we should actually see a way of making investors and all these organizations, like we have already the IRENA and the European Youth Network, are doing a lot in the SDG7 youth constituency, where I've been opportunity to showcase my initiatives and my organization's initiatives. We have a lot of young people that are being trained by organizations, international energy organizations like the REN 21, IRENA, and the lots of them. So we can have more civil society participation. We can have more engagement on financing youth initiatives, on educating youth and making them go into deep research and development on energy issues. And this is a way of being just to ourselves. This is a way of being fair to the youth and being fair to the future generation of the youth. And at this point, I think I can actually let you know also that we can all do this together if we only believe that we have a common problem and we work towards achieving a solution for our problems by setting targets for ourselves. We can have targets for the next 1 year, the next 5, 10, 15 years. And this is how we create a future, a just and resilient future for everyone, where no one is left behind in any way. So we should also look more into the economic aspects of things. While developing microgrid projects, we should consider that beyond these projects, or we should find ways where the projects can contribute to the economic lifestyles of people that are being targeted. For instance, if we have communities that are being targeted at development or at a pilot, we should consider the whole community approach of engaging everyone in seeing to the fact that they have to develop these plans themselves, because the plans should be for them. They should be able to take responsibility at maintaining infrastructures that are located and sited in their localities for development, so that resilience can actually be built over time, and it would not be at the detriment, economic detriment of investors and governments or personal organizations that are coming up with such projects in their community. So at this point, I should also talk more about the finance. Like recently, the European Green Deal that is being set out, we should actually push more to let there be a transparency in the process of financing clean energy and the other instruments that are entailed in the just transition measures. So at this point, I would like to drop my points. Where I am right now is actually very noisy. So I would like to drop my point and let the moderator take over. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Samuel. Thank you also for your insights and your points. And I want, before giving the floor to the audience and maybe to engage a brief discussion, I want to ask to you if you want to share with us your experience. You are the founder of Innovea. This is also an example of concrete activation of youth also towards a transition that you said that need to be just and need to foster also the fact that no one need to be left behind. So maybe if you want to tell more about your experience on that.
Yeah, thank you very much. As a youth and as an individual who is passionate about development and advancement, and I had background in the areas of science and technology as a physicist, electronics, and graduates with background in renewable energy, in artificial intelligence, solutions, environment physics, where I carried out most of my research. I've always tried to build a career around the environment, technology, innovation, and most importantly, the youth. So this has been my motivation at getting exposed to events that actually has helped me in developing personally and taking up initiatives for myself and the community at large. Saw me characterizing ionizing radiations from waste, and we saw that the volume of waste generated in globally actually can actually power uh, the entire global energy deficit. In what sense? If we choose to domesticate our waste through biomass, biogas, we can actually see that there's going to be a circular economy model that can be built in developing waste and turning it into usable energy. And we can also identify that there are important factors while addressing different issues that are related to people. Basically, for instance, in Africa, there's always a mindset that is negative generally, but we should look beyond the mindset. We should actually focus on how we can ensure connectivity of our initiatives, of our ideas, of our solutions with the audience. We have to work on the cultural psychologies of the audience we are targeting. We have to make them see reasons why it is important to take some decisions and take up some responsible consumption pattern. And while doing this, we should watch the scenario, because most of them might just get overwhelmed with the information. So we shouldn't give them too much information. Rather, we should act and take decisions and take initiatives. And when they begin to see the results of the actions and the initiatives and the decisions and probably policies that have been made, they can begin to see the effects on the environment, on the economy, on individual lifestyles and livelihoods, development, for instance, then they begin to get more interested in this. So the basic challenges we've experienced as youth initiatives locally and regionally is we always have little support from the government, of course, you know that, and that's why we are developing action plans and, of course, building enterprises as well as social enterprises, and as well as coming up with a non-profit that will not actually work as a government entity, but they work independently to solve community-based solution and problems and challenges. So I will encourage more youths to get engaged in such courses and then have a way of interfacing with the government at taking them to their words and holding them accountable and responsible. Like I used to say that at this point, youths have to step up the game. And according to the theme of this event, step up. So we can step up the game by actually taking the challenge to decision makers, policy makers, actors, and global leaders to actually make sure that the green deals are working for the green sector recovery. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Samuel. Thanks to you. And yeah, one of the goals of the social forum, climate social forum, is to like connect also and create what we say the virtual agora among different actors inside the climate change scenario: youths, experts, professionists, NGOs, and so on. And in fact, properly starting from today, we will foster also the discussion in the next tables of today. But today we have with us Maria Grazia Midula, that is from WWF Italia, and Stefania Romano, that is from DM25 and Climate Reality Project. And so also this environment now is like a way to foster this dialogue in order to like find the ideas and proposal for a just transition. The topics of today, as we addressed, are more on finance and economy. And also you pointed out in your point, Samuel, the need to finance and to like make investments in a way on and apply resources on, for example, you cited energy projects or energy transition activities and so on. And properly on that, I will open maybe the discussion, giving also the floor to Stefania and to Maria Grazia to have the opportunity also to discuss on this point, how we can mobilize, for example, finance and resources towards more innovation projects and sustainable projects.
I don't know whether Maria Grazia, you want to just talk fast. I would be very happy if you want to give an overview and then I just follow. You let me know, or I can give some hints.
I can say a few words because I was supposed to be in another discussion, and I felt myself in this one. But it's interesting, and I'm always happy to know somebody from other countries, especially from Africa. And I wanted just to say that we are discussing a lot about just transition and recovery plans in Europe, as you know. And I think there are different elements that we are discussing at the moment. And the reality is very different, but I think that you can find something that can be useful. First of all, on finance, yes, there should be some way of helping the communities, especially in regions and the countries in which that are mostly fossil fuel based. This is a part of what the Green Fund should be about, and this is also part about also international. It's something that international cooperation should help about. But the debate we are in now in Italy and in Europe in general is how to spend the money. Because of course it is important to help communities, not better directly fuel the initiatives from communities, but at the same time it's important to have a framework in which these projects happen, in order to be sure that the money are not spent for spot initiative on one issue or another, but they are spent in order to create an environment, to create a system for the transformation, for the transition. This is the first issue. The second issue is of course that in some communities fossil fuels are important also because they employ people from the communities, and it is very important that the government should assure them an environment in which there could be possible for people to go from a job to another job, or at least to have a social insurance or some provision in order not to suffer too much. That's important, and I think for doing that, it's very important that there is a plan, there is a strategy, there is a vision. That's exactly what we are saying to Italy, to the government of Italy, and I think that's exactly what you could be asking from your government as a youth and as constituencies. But last but not least, I think that the initiatives from the bottom-up initiatives from communities are a key, it's very important that you see the transformation that is taking place, not as something that is happening in one field or another, in transportation and not in energy, and not in energy efficiency in buildings and so on, because this transformation is taking place on all sectors, in all sectors, and that's important. It's also very important that communities can bring in their culture, because sometimes the culture is a way of pursuing the objective, the goals, in a way that the market is not able to decide and understand. It's important so that all this transformation is done involving people, not on top of people, not on top of communities. That's something important for people in Nigeria, as it is for people in every other country. Over.
Thank you very much, Maria Grazia, for your point of view. And I want to ask also to Stefania, giving her the floor. Maria Grazia addressed more the necessity of finding how to spend in a right way the money. And to you, I want to ask how to avoid to spend bad the money. So
that's I'm very much afraid that the national resilience and recovery plans are not going to be using the money properly, and that's, I think, a real danger for just for us Italians, but also, you know, just as for us as European citizens. And this is something that we have been discussing. We have had a very interesting discussion with Yanis Varoufakis on the 9th of October on the Green New Deal and the key messages, and Lorenzo Fioramonti was there, the former Minister of Education, and he was very blunt about that. We have to be very careful how we're going to be using the money, because most of this money are loans and we have to give them back. And we know that somehow our bureaucracy in Italy is very cumbersome, and also the number of the projects that we're going to be submitting are just not necessarily focused on industry and social requalification, rather on ordinary maintenance. So we have to be very careful, because I think that the clock is ticking, and it's really time to take action. And when we talk about financing, I was listening very interestingly to Samuel talking about his experience in Africa, and he was mentioning some agencies like IRENA. I was working with them very much when I used to work for the Italian Minister of the Environment. I was seconded to international organizations, and we have run a number of activities. So it was just saying, just highlighting the fact that we have to be co-creating action. And I like very much when he also said we have to be pushing more investments from the European Union, because they're doing a lot, but not necessarily enough, not necessarily they're up to the expectations. And Maria Grazia was saying very clearly that not only we have to be careful on how the money is spent, but also we have to be relying on international cooperation and on communities. Now, there is a point that I think it's core to the problem. We really have to be looking at the core of the problem. And the core of the problem is somehow the financial system. And we know that I mean, when we talk about the financial system, we talk about banks. Now, in 2019, the world's largest banks invested more than $2.36 trillion in sectors that governments and scientists agree are the primary drivers of biodiversity destruction. Now, banks play a key role in the financial system that somehow free rides on biodiversity. We have to say that bluntly. We are in the midst of a mass extinction event, which is termed as Anthropocene Extinction, and that's the first of its kind that has been caused by humans. So humans have impacted nearly every corner of the planet, and scientists are saying it clearly. They're warning about biological annihilation. Now, the focus has always been put on governments and companies. They have been held as liable, but we have to be looking at the actors of the finance sectors because they have largely eluded and evaded scrutiny. Now, why does it matter? It does matter because they are financing those activities that somehow cause biodiversity loss. Our human life, our survival depends on nature, and COVID-19 has shown it very clearly. I mean, nature underpins our health, our societies, our economies, and if we just radically alter nature, then we create the conditions in which pandemics emerge. So it's not that the environmental destruction is an unfortunate byproduct of economic developments. It's the other way around. It's just quite the reverse. So our abusive relationship with nature is contributing to a hole in the economy of $8 trillion, rising unemployment, social inequality. So somehow half of the world's GDP is in that to nature, in the services that nature provides for activities that somehow, from which human beings are benefiting and are directly causing biodiversity loss, like fishing, mining, and the supply chain from retail or processing to trade commodities and construction. Now there is a number of banks that somehow are liable, that are just the largest exposure to biodiversity risk, and they are in the US, they are in Europe, they are in China, they are in Japan. That they are responsible for 32% of their loans to infrastructures, 25% with metal and mineral mining, and the further 20% with fossil fuels. So it's to prevent extinction. I mean, we have to make sure that banks stop funding those activities because somehow it's just the governments that allow banks to be running activities on which are like food production system, forestry, mining, fossil fuels, infrastructures, tourism, the relocation of goods and people all around. Those are the primary drivers of global extinction. And Maria Grazia was saying it quite clearly before. We need international cooperation. Now, I have worked on behalf of the Italian ministry in that very field because I was seconded to international organizations. And I was in Japan when there was the convention, the IT Global Biodiversity in 2010. But none of the targets have been met. Just 18 years ago, we had the World Summit on Sustainable Development. 20 years ago, we had the Rio Summit. Now, the point is that humans are consciously destroying the biodiversity and the ecosystem services that we rely on. That's absurd, but that's the reality. So clearly, current policies and conservation efforts are insufficient to protect our environment and sustainably make a sustainable use of nature. So what we really need is a transformative change all across economic, social, political, and technological segments. But the economic actors are like major, and they have to be rewriting the rules with responsibility and coming up with a new cultural somehow setup. So this is major, and this is something that somehow, I mean, has to be pointed out. We have to be. It's time for changing, reorganizing the system that we have that has been producing this. I mean, pollution, climate change, and then the negative effects that we are experiencing like COVID-19.
Thank you, Stefania, and thank you all for your insight. Now I will open the floor for also the participants if they have some question or they want to intervene into the discussion. Even if the speakers want to reply also to the current statements. And also, I just remember one very important thing. I mentioned about the Climate Social Forum, and one also of the goals of the Climate Social Forum is to foster discussion in order to propose ideas and like stimulate the dialogue on that. And for this, we have created these documents, these track documents, one of each of the main tracks that we call the climate action paths that we are addressing. So feel free to fill in your inputs and insight inside the documents. They are briefly structured with the 3 guiding questions that are the ones of the Talanoa dialogue. So where we are, the state of art of the problem, where do we want to go? So which are the goals to go beyond the problems, and how do we get there? So methodology and strategy, both for the local, national, and global level. So Giancarlo, you can open the microphone and also speak. So please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I've just sent a question. I read the question. There would be a need for reliable political partners in the institutions to ensure proper use of resources. This is the most important question, how to face this challenge.
Okay. Who wants to take the floor? We can make a round of intervention on that.
Can I start?
Go ahead.
Okay. I will just give you my own experience, because I have worked for the Italian Minister of the Environment for a long time, and I've seen setting up very many policies, frameworks, conventions all across and all around. So there is a lot of responsibility which has to do with the political setup and approach of the situation. But I was in Rio +20 in 2012, and I was listening to one of the major, I would say, player in that political player, I would say, Pepe Mujica, the former president of Uruguay, and when his speech was really astounding. It was really different, because he wasn't just saying, okay, we're just working on that, that's what we are doing, just kind of filling the forms with all of very good words. No, I was just saying it very clearly. I mean, we created a society which is not working, and when he's asked about what the solution is, I mean, he doesn't really have a solution. He says it just reminds us that somehow the economic development is useless unless happiness is part of the equation. So we're just pushing for economic development, forgetting that somehow we are happy when we have sound human relations. So the problem is political, but first of all, the problem comes from us. I mean, we really have to change the way how we have set up the societies. It's very simple, but it cannot be GDP, that will solve our problem. It's not technology that is going to be solving our problem. It's just us. I mean, we are consciously destroying the environment, so it has to come from us. But each of us, so it's politicians, it's bankers, it's artists, it's indigenous communities, it's poets, it's it has to be coordination, but we really have to change the approach, the mindset, the cultural, societal patterns. That's pivotal.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stefania. Also take the chance, if the other speaker want to make their statement. Samuel, if you want to add something.
There's nothing to happen now. I think we've all spoken well, and we just need to go beyond talking, and we need to take actions, visible actions, measurable impacts, and making sure what we're discussing actually is yielding results for us. So beyond this, we should actually work on whatever it is we've been working on before, establish more partnerships, to foster development for the just transition, we should push for more actions, because if we keep pushing for more, then we keep getting results. If we don't keep pushing for more, we get less results, and we may not even actually totally maximize the finances that are around the spaces for the just transitions we're clamoring for. So it is important these actions keep growing, the voices keeps complementing the actions, and the two should be on the pari passu, how we can actually successfully get results for our advocacies. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Samuel. Maria Grazia, if you want to add something.
Sorry, did you hear what I said?
Okay.
I'm sorry, but I cannot hear very well, so I couldn't hear what Samuel said. So go ahead.
Please let me just make this remark again. I said at this point we should just focus on how to actually bring our actions and our words into alignment, and the two should go in pari passu as to driving impacts and measuring impacts of our actions and our agitations, not just to the government but to the agencies that are in charge, the caucus, and then people that are actually the major decision makers, and they should be held accountable and responsible for the just transitions requirements. So doing, we can actually finally get results for our agitations and what we as environmentalists or as development practitioners have been working towards for a long time, so that our efforts are not jeopardized by indecisions. Because if we don't keep pushing, if we don't keep talking, then they begin to get relaxed, and then there's a tendency that our inputs are jeopardized, and then our voices are not heard, and then our actions are in vain. So in order to forestall this, we need to take more action to complement our words and our advocacies. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Samuel. Maria Grazia, if you want to add something to the previous statements.
Yeah, it's difficult for me to come in because I really cannot get what Samuel is saying. There is a big noise. I don't know if I'm the only one who gets
No,
it.
it's a background noise, Maria Grazia, it's true. A lot of background noise.
Yeah, but anyway, I see that somebody is saying about the political partners. I think that's an issue in every country, and that's for sure. And that's where the civil society comes in, Samuel. I think that's precisely the role of civil society as a whole. So I mean, also it's. I think that the civil society globally can reinforce the action of civil society locally. That's also important. And I'm sure that the different youth movements like Fridays for Future and so on will help a lot on this. And but of course it means that making also connections and making sure that you don't go from unreliable partners or officials or systems to other unreliable people. That's for sure. Sometimes that's particularly difficult, and I remember a lot of negotiations about this issue, because sometimes what happens in the negotiation is that a sort of a patronizing attitude from the Western institutions, and that's something that cannot help civil society locally. So it's an issue that should be dealt primarily by local communities and civil societies, and then also with the help of the global civil constituencies and or even institutions. But if the local communities are not active, there is no hope. I mean, for solving the problem at all.
Thank you, Maria Grazia, and thank you for all the speakers. Now we are finished our time for this session, and we are starting the other session also with Maria Grazia. We'll reach also Luca Iacoboni of Greenpeace, and the topic will be how to avoid environmental harmful subsidies and stop them. So Maria Grazia, you're very welcome to stay here. Yes, Luca has just arrived. And thank you very much for this session. Now we'll stop for 1 second the live session, and we will go live suddenly with the next round. Parallelly, there will be another session on Article 6, where there is also Samuel as a panelist. So I invite Samuel to join the other room. And thank you very much to all, and let's stop for 1 second and reprise with the next roundtable. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Of course, Stefana, you also invited to stay.
Ah, okay, I didn't know that.
Ok. So, ora stop un secondo. Ok, allora